Hey, Niners faithful, what a stretch this has been. And there's just so much unfolding around this team that it feels like every new week brings a fresh wave of emotion, frustration, excitement, and flat-out disbelief. After the win over Arizona, fans walked away with that mix of relief and concern that only this season's version of San Francisco football can generate. The scoreboard looked good, the offense had energy, the defense forced turnovers, but the cracks that keep showing up are getting harder to ignore, especially with how thin this roster has become at certain positions. And it all starts with an injury that hit the heart of this defense. Losing Tatum Bethune right now is brutal. He has been the guy plugging into Fred Warner's spot, stepping into a role that is almost impossible to fill, and somehow doing it with a maturity and consistency that nobody expected from a seventh-round rookie. A high ankle sprain is never minor. It lingers, it slows down mobility, and it almost always forces players to miss time. The timing could not be worse for a linebacker group already stretched thin, and even though Bethune is not Fred Warner, he became a stabilizing piece who always seemed to find himself in the middle of the action. He was wearing the green dot, managing communication for the entire defense, and holding his own while playing some of the most demanding snaps on the field. And even though tackle totals never tell the full story, the way this guy kept popping up around the ball showed how quickly he adjusted to the speed of the league. Double-digit tackles became almost routine for him. He stacked game after game after game with that same relentless pursuit, that same motor, that same instinct to diagnose plays faster than you would expect from a rookie thrown into chaos. And now the Niners have to navigate without him. Once he went down, Curtis Robinson stepped in, and honestly, he brought more than many fans expected. You could see the instincts. You could see the effort. You could see moments where he trusted what he saw and made plays that actually mattered. He moved well to the outside on that key play at the goal line, pairing up with Upton Stout to jar the ball loose. And for a guy who has spent most of his career surviving on special teams, coming off a major injury last year, playing meaningful snaps right away and not looking overwhelmed was a real positive. But the linebacker room is in survival mode. DeWinter's shifting to the weak side. Robinson trying to hold the middle. Luke Gifford mixing in. Nick Martin finally seeing defensive action for the first time in his professional career. And with young players, you always get that combination of raw energy and raw mistakes. Nick Martin flashes like someone who practices with jet engines strapped to his shoes. Then moments later you see him lose track of a route, get turned around in traffic, or fall a step behind someone running up the seam. It is all part of the development curve, but it does reveal how thin the margin is for this defense right now. And then there is the situation at kicker, which feels like the latest curveball thrown at a team that already used up its quota of bad luck. Eddie Pinheiro has been flawless, confident, and unbelievably reliable, becoming that steady heartbeat on special teams that you almost forget to appreciate until something goes wrong. A hamstring strain ends that run for now, and suddenly the Niners need another solution. And when a team leans on field goals as consistently as this one has, losing someone who is perfect from every distance this year is no small deal. When a kicker settles into a groove like that, when every attempt looks automatic, when every long kick carries the same confidence as a chip shot, that becomes part of your identity as a team. So now San Francisco is looking around, exploring options, try to find someone who can step in without sinking momentum. It is a delicate spot because one misstep, one inconsistent performance, one unstable approach can change a game, a rhythm, even the trust of a locker room. Meanwhile, fans had some fun imagining the bizarre possibility of bringing back Jake Moody, especially after everything that happened last season, but that door closed quickly when Washington scooped him up. It was never truly realistic, but the idea itself captured how strange this year has been. Nothing has felt normal. Nothing has followed the script. Players who were supposed to carry major roles have missed months. Young players who were supposed to be depth pieces are suddenly central pillars. And the injuries keep stacking, including the ongoing wait for Brandon Ayuk's return. The longer this goes, the more unlikely it feels that he steps on the field this season. Tearing multiple ligaments is a devastating injury that demands patience, and the team has shown that it is not willing to force a comeback the way some franchises might. Every decision hints that they want him fully healthy, not temporarily available. And that makes sense, given how dynamic he is when right, how valuable he could be long-term, and how badly things went in the past when another star was rushed back too quickly. At the same time, Jacob Cowing is inching closer to returning, and while nothing is guaranteed, there's at least a chance he could bring deep speed energy later in the year. His rookie season vanished. This year has been derailed, and he even admitted that every time he tried to return, the same injury flared back up. It is frustrating for him, for the coaching staff, and for fans who saw flashes of what he might become during the offseason. But if he does make it back after the bye, he brings something this offense could absolutely use: explosiveness, separation, and that gadget-style versatility that Kyle Shanahan always finds creative ways to unlock. And as the offense tries to survive without Ayuk and continues building chemistry around Brock Purdy again, any injection of speed could change the dynamic in ways that matter. And while the offense sorts itself out, the team made a small but expected move at quarterback. With Brock Purdy finally healthy enough to retake his full workload and Jones back into his backup role, the team released Adrian Martinez, who cleared waivers and is now set to return to the practice squad. It is not a shocking move, but it does tighten the depth chart in a way that signals the coaching staff's confidence in their main two quarterbacks moving forward. And even with all of these moving parts, all of these substitutions, all of these lineup adjustments every single week, there's still one concern hovering over this team that refuses to go away. It was obvious against Arizona. It was obvious the week before against Los Angeles. And it has been obvious in almost every close game of this season. The pass rush has gone missing. And for a franchise that built its identity on defensive chaos, that is a problem that becomes bigger every time the opposing quarterback walks off the field without a scratch. Watching Jacoby Brissett drop back more than 50 times and leave the stadium with a completely clean jersey was one of those moments where you sit back and wonder how a unit loaded with so much speed and so much talent can struggle this deeply to generate heat. He stood in the pocket like it was a 7-on-7 drill. He surveyed the field, moved through progressions, and delivered strike after strike because nothing up front forced him to speed up his process. The Niners registered just 13 pressures the entire afternoon, and for a unit that once terrified offensive lines across the league, that total is simply not good enough. And sure, the yardage total looks bad, but the flow of the game tells a different story. Arizona spent most of the afternoon buried behind the chains because they kept committing penalty after penalty, pushing themselves backward nearly 200 yards in lost field position. When you play from behind, when you put yourself in obvious passing situations, of course the yardage will pile up. But even with the context, the bigger issue remains the same. The defense is being asked to hold up without consistent disruption up front, and when the rush disappears, the secondary becomes vulnerable. Young linebackers end up isolated in space. Cornerbacks are left covering deeper routes for longer stretches of time. Safeties have to compensate by cheating into passing lanes earlier than they want. It becomes a ripple effect that spreads across every level of the defense. The sack numbers make it even clearer. Bryce Huff is leading the team and has not played in weeks. Nick Bosa collected 2 early in the season before going down and has not been able to add to that total since. The fact that your third and fourth players in sack production include a rotational defender and a cornerback tells you everything about how dry this well has become. Players who should be depth pieces are being asked to play above their role. Players who were brought in to be situational rushers have not delivered consistent pressure. Injuries have forced coaches to patch holes instead of unleash creativity. Every snap becomes a grind rather than an explosive moment. Despite all of this, the team continues to find ways to compete, and that is where Kyle Shanahan's impact becomes impossible to ignore. The ability to manage injuries, adapt systems, reshuffle key roles, and keep the group focused while dealing with one setback after another is something fans should not take for granted. When a team loses core defensive stars, deals with kicking instability, rotates through offensive weapons, and still finds itself fighting for the top of the division standings, that is not an accident. That is coaching. That is preparation. That is culture. What Shanahan has done with this version of the Niners is nothing short of remarkable, especially when so many teams across the league collapse after losing even one or two starters. Here, the Niners have lost wave after wave of contributors, and they still show up every Sunday ready to battle. And the quarterback situation is part of that resilience. Brock Purdy stepping back into the starting role after missing time and immediately restoring timing, command, and balance to the offense shows how strongly this locker room rallies behind him. Every time he gets healthy again, the unit feels steadier. The routes open up. The rhythm returns. The confidence grows. Jones filling in and keeping the team above water during his stretch as the starter deserves appreciation too. He handled the chaos, protected the football when needed, and kept the team competitive during a stretch that could have spiraled out of control. It was not always flashy, but it was necessary, and that matters more than people acknowledge. But even with the steady hand under center, the Niners cannot escape the reality that the roster is worn down. Long-term absences like Ayuk change the math on offense. Defensive breakdowns that stem from inexperience pile onto the pressure. Special teams stability evaporates when a kicker who has been perfect all season suddenly cannot take the field. And a pass rush that once dominated now struggles to wrap up even one sack against a quarterback dropping back more than 50 times. These are the kinds of issues that linger if they're not addressed. These are the kinds of holes that expose a team when the schedule gets tougher. And these are the kinds of patterns that turn playoff battles into uphill climbs if they remain unresolved. Yet the fascinating part about this San Francisco team is how often they find a way to overcome chaos. They win games that slip into chaos. They survive injuries that should sink their season. They steady themselves after moments that would completely break other franchises. It is the combination of coaching, development, buy-in from young players, and a locker room that refuses to fold, no matter how wild the season becomes. And every week adds another chapter to this unpredictable, exhausting, dramatic journey. The spark that changes everything. The pressure that turns good quarterbacks into hesitant ones. The edge that has defined so many of San Francisco's biggest seasons. And with everything still on the line, the countdown to that answer has already begun. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In what could be the offseason's most electrifying shakeup, whispers around the league suggest that the San Francisco 49ers have pulled off a signing that might redefine the NFC West defensive landscape. Aaron Donald, the defensive titan known for turning every pocket into a personal playground, is reportedly set to join the 49ers ranks. While nothing is official yet, sources close to the organization hint that the deal is more than a contractual formality. It's a statement. Donald himself is said to have promised a relentless pursuit of quarterbacks throughout the division, declaring, "It's a hunt. Every QB in the NFC West is on notice." The news has ignited a firestorm of speculation among fans and analysts alike. Could this be the missing piece that finally pushes the 49ers over the edge in a division crowded with elite offenses? Donald's ability to disrupt, sack, and intimidate is well documented, and pairing him with San Francisco's already ferocious defensive front could create a nightmare scenario for any opposing signal caller. Rumors suggest that internal team discussions have centered on how to maximize Donald's unparalleled skill set while keeping the defensive scheme versatile and unpredictable. Some insiders even suggest that his presence could allow for more creative blitz packages, shifting pressure in ways that could make the West's top quarterbacks rethink their game plans before the first snap. Of course, these are still whispers, but the buzz is impossible to ignore. Speculation is rampant about how Donald's arrival might affect roster moves, draft strategies, and even the team's offensive approach, as opponents may start scheming specifically to neutralize his influence. Social media has already exploded with mock-ups of Donald in a 49ers jersey, and fan forums are lit with debates over which NFC West QB will feel the brunt of his wrath first. Whether it's a tactical masterstroke or a gamble, one thing is clear. The 49ers' defensive aura is about to change, and the NFC West will not sleep easy while Donald prowls the line of scrimmage. For now, it's all rumor and intrigue. But if the whispers hold any weight, we may be witnessing the birth of one of the most feared defensive alliances the league has seen in years. Aaron Donald in scarlet and gold is more than a signing. It's a promise of chaos for quarterbacks across the West. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.